Your future probably won't be decided by one huge decision. It will be decided by tiny choices you make when nobody is watching. Choices that feel completely unimportant today, but quietly shape who you become tomorrow. And the scary part? You're already making these choices every single day. The question is, are they building the future you want, or the future you're slowly trying to escape? What if the future you're living 5 years from now is being decided by choices you barely notice today? Not huge decisions, not life-changing opportunities. Tiny moments, the 5 minutes you waste when you could start. The way you respond when someone frustrates you. The promises you keep or break to yourself. These choices feel insignificant, but repeated every day, they quietly shape your confidence, habits, relationships, and direction. And the most surprising part? You're making these decisions every single day. So today, let's uncover 5 tiny choices that could be quietly deciding the person you become and the life you eventually live. 1. The choice to do something before you feel ready. One of the biggest traps in life is waiting to feel ready. You tell yourself, I'll start when I'm more confident. I'll do it when I understand everything. I'll begin when I have more time. I'll try when I know I won't fail. It sounds reasonable, but there's a problem. Confidence usually doesn't come before action. It often comes because of action. Your brain learns through experience. When you take a small, uncomfortable step and survive it, your brain receives new information. This wasn't as dangerous as I thought. Then you take another step, and another. Slowly, uncertainty becomes familiarity. Familiarity becomes competence. And competence creates confidence. This is why waiting for motivation can keep you trapped. You're expecting a feeling to give you permission to act. But sometimes action has to come first. You don't need to write the entire book today. Write one paragraph. You don't need to completely change your life this week. Change one routine. You don't need to become fearless. Do one thing while you're still nervous. Because every time you act before you feel completely ready, you teach yourself something important. I can move forward even when I'm uncertain. And that belief can completely change your future. But there's another tiny choice that can quietly destroy that progress. 2. The choice to protect your attention. Your attention is one of the most valuable things you own. And yet, most people give pieces of it away all day without realizing it. You wake up, you check your phone. One notification becomes 5 minutes. 5 minutes becomes 20. Then your brain is already filled with other people's opinions, problems, arguments, entertainment, and distractions before your own day has even started. The problem isn't simply wasting time. It's training your brain to constantly seek stimulation. Your attention works like a spotlight. Whatever you repeatedly point it toward becomes more mentally important. If you constantly focus on drama, comparison, and negativity, your mind becomes better at noticing them. If you repeatedly focus on learning, creating, solving problems, and meaningful goals, your brain becomes more familiar with those patterns too. So, one tiny choice matters. What gets your attention first? Not once. Every day. You don't need to throw your phone away. You don't need to become completely disconnected from the world. Just create small moments where you control your attention instead of automatically surrendering it. Read a few pages before opening social media. Work for 20 minutes without checking notifications. Finish one task before jumping to another. Sit quietly for a few minutes. It sounds almost too simple. But imagine doing this for years. You're not just protecting minutes. You're protecting your ability to think deeply. And that leads to a question most people rarely ask themselves. Who is controlling your attention, your goals, or whatever demands it from you? Because the answer quietly shapes your future. 3. The choice to keep one small. promise to yourself. There's a special kind of confidence that doesn't come from compliments. It comes from trusting yourself. And self-trust is built in a surprisingly simple way. You keep promises to yourself. Maybe you tell yourself you'll study for 20 minutes. You do it. You say you'll finish one important task before relaxing. You finish it. You decide to practice something every day. You show up. These actions may seem tiny, but your brain notices them. Every time you follow through, you create evidence that your words and actions can match. And every time you repeatedly break promises to yourself, you create a different pattern. You start thinking, I never stick with anything. I always procrastinate. I'll probably quit again. That thought can become a self-fulfilling loop. So stop making enormous promises. You don't need to tell yourself, from tomorrow, everything changes. Instead, make the promise smaller. Today, I'll do 10 minutes. Then do 10 minutes. The goal isn't to impress yourself. The goal is to prove something to yourself. That you can say something and follow through. Because once you trust yourself, difficult goals become less intimidating. You stop needing constant motivation. You know that when you decide to do something, there's a good chance you'll actually do it. And there's something even more important here. The future version of you is built from the evidence you give yourself today. So ask yourself, what is one small promise you can keep before the day ends? Keep that promise, then repeat it tomorrow. 4. The choice to pause. Before reacting. Someone says something rude. You instantly want to respond. Someone ignores you. You start creating a story in your head. Someone criticizes you. You feel the need to defend yourself immediately. This is where one tiny choice can change everything. Pause. Not forever, just long enough to create space between what happened and what you do next. Your first emotional reaction is not always your best decision. When emotions are intense, your thinking can become narrower. You focus on protecting yourself instead of understanding the situation. That's why people sometimes send messages they later regret. Say things they didn't mean, make decisions while angry, or walk away from opportunities because of one uncomfortable moment. A pause gives your brain time to catch up. Instead of, they disrespected me, you can ask, did they actually mean that? Instead of, this always happens to me. Ask, what do I actually know? Instead of, I need to respond right now. Ask, will responding help me? That tiny pause can protect relationships. It can protect opportunities. It can protect your reputation. Most importantly, it protects your ability to choose. You cannot always control what happens. You cannot control other people's behavior. But you can become better at controlling what happens next. And that skill becomes more valuable as life gets more complicated. Because eventually, your future will contain stressful moments. Everyone's does. The difference is whether those moments control you or teach you how to respond better. But there's one final choice that goes even deeper. It affects what you believe about yourself. And most people make it without realizing it. 5. The choice of what you tell yourself after you fail. You make a mistake. Something doesn't work. You disappoint yourself. And then comes the internal conversation. This is where your future can quietly change direction. You can say, I failed, so I'm not good enough. Or you can say, that didn't work. What can I learn? Those two sentences create completely different psychological patterns. The first turns an event into an identity. The second turns an event into information. Failure becomes less about proving your worth and more about improving your approach. This doesn't mean pretending everything is positive. It means being accurate. You failed at something. That doesn't mean you are a failure. You made a bad decision. That doesn't mean you always make bad decisions. You struggled. That doesn't mean you're incapable. Your brain needs a useful explanation after setbacks. If you constantly attack yourself, you can create avoidance. You begin avoiding situations where you might fail because failure feels like proof that something is wrong with you. But if you treat mistakes as feedback, you create room to experiment, adjust, and continue. So the next time something goes wrong, notice the sentence that appears in your mind. Then change the question. Instead of, "Why am I like this?" ask, "What can I do differently next time?" Instead of, "I ruined everything," ask, "What is still under my control?" Instead of, "I'm never going to succeed," ask, "What is the next small move?" That shift may take 5 seconds, but repeated over months and years, it can completely change how you handle life. Because your future isn't just shaped by what happens to you. It's shaped by the meaning you give to what happens. Your future doesn't change in one dramatic moment. It changes through the tiny choices you repeat when nobody is watching. The decision to start instead of delay. To protect your attention instead of wasting it. To keep one promise to yourself. To pause instead of react. And to learn from failure instead of letting it define you. You may not notice the difference tomorrow, but keep making better choices. And one day you'll look back and realize your life changed quietly. So don't underestimate your next small decision. It might look insignificant today, but it could be shaping a future you'll be proud to live.